Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, welcome. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is my partner Mark Wages. And you know, just as soon as we go live, every screen that I have blacks out. So give me 1 second so that I can pull up and see you guys chatting. There we go. I think we're back. Here you go. So tonight's topic, people. First of all, thanks to everybody that did things like share last night's video. We got more action on last night's video than we have ever had, I think, on anything. Which is exciting. You know, we're a little channel. We got a huge mission, you know, but as my brother likes to say, you know, I kind of feel like the lifeboat should probably be about 10,000 views per view, because the people hanging out there are actually trying to, you know, make a change, which I think is kind of a cool thing for him to say. And we don't really keep score the way I think a lot of other channels do, but it's exciting when we get people onto the boat, especially people who instantly engage. And last night was just amazing. If you read the comment section, there are so many people from last night's live feed that had never been to the boat before, and instantly you would have thought they'd been here forever. But the comments and everything else. Hello, Miss V. She was talking about she sent over a stroming video. Where I watched a couple of guys. Oh, yes. And these guys, they didn't do a whole lot better than we did, but it was fun watching it happen to somebody else. A lot more fun than when it happens to you personally. It was really, really good. All All right, people. The reason that tonight's topic is what it is because you guys asked for it. We had more people reach out to us and specifically say, you know what, I really do want to talk to people, but I don't even know how to start. I don't know how to break the ice. I don't know how to do anything. And they asked very specifically that we do a show where we talk about exactly that, you know, how we would go out. And I'll tell you something, this is going to fall into a couple of different categories, right? Because if you're talking to people that don't do drugs, right? If you're talking to children who are younger, right? Or people who are in that wheelhouse. And by that, I mean from about 12, right? Where people, it's sad but true. That's the age now that they're saying a lot of kids are starting to experiment with drugs, right? It's about 12 years old. So from 12 up to about mid 30s to 40s is when you're most likely to be doing this stuff. So we're going to talk about how you approach those people and warn them about what's going on in our country and what's going on in the world. You know, the topic that we sort of railed on last night. And then the second topic is going to be how you deal with people who are getting high. And that's a really important thing because right now, statistically speaking, everybody, whether you realize it or not, knows somebody that is using opiates. I mean, it is such an epidemic right now in this country that it's almost a mathematical improbability that you do not know somebody who right now is abusing them. It's sad, but that really is where we're at right now as a country. And I think that that's probably one of the more important subjects that we could ever talk about because we do, you know, we like to say a lot, hey, between now and the next time we see each other, right? Why don't you reach out and try to save somebody? If you don't have a handle on exactly what that means or how you approach those people, it is a difficult subject because as addicts, and we all remember this, right? If somebody came up and said, hey, you know what, I'm kind of worried about how you seem a little overboard, right? Maybe you're going a little too hard on this stuff. The first thing we do is arch our back like a cat, right? And then immediately attack the person. Because we found out really early on that if somebody messes with us on our drug, the best thing you can do is just get indignant. They accuse you of getting high. How dare you, right? The more you raise your voice, the better a chance you got of sort of winning that little debate or running the people off so that they don't screw up your ability to continue to get high, which is really what scares most of these people. So listen, we're going to start with that topic because I think if by some chance somebody bails, this is really one that this is the more difficult of the two subjects. A lot of it depends on what people are abusing. So if somebody is doing methamphetamine, if someone's doing cocaine, it is a completely different approach than if somebody is doing opiates. If somebody is getting high on opiates, number one, they want to quit. I don't think I've ever met anybody strung out on opiates that doesn't want off opiates. The reason that they continue to go is because they know how bad withdrawal is. That is what is keeping them from living their best life. It's what's keeping them from even making the attempt. Most addicts have tried so many times, and usually around hour 12, it starts getting ugly. And by midway through day number 2 or 3, you're caving in. Because it really is, it's not just the physical, which is awful, but I've tried to describe this to people who have never been strung out on opiates. What makes it so hard is the fact that you know it can go away. If you get sick, right, and you know that you just have to ride this out, right? Even if you're doing something really awful, if you're doing radiation therapy, right, or you're doing chemotherapy or something that is really hard on the body, they say things like, we're going to do 8 weeks of pre-op radiation. We're going to do an operation, then we're going to do 8 weeks of post-op radiation. And from the word go, you know that there's no way to get off that train. It's going to be 16 weeks with a surgery in the middle, and you just have to endure it. There's nothing that you can do. Well, the kind of pain that you get from opiates, you just got to make a phone call, right? You can make all of that stop. And there is a voice in your head that is screaming at the top of its lungs, make this stop. So when you approach somebody who is addicted to opiates, what you have to tell them is there is a way to get sober without hurting. That is the number one thing that you can tell them. And you're not lying because there are so many different methods now for the cessation of opiate abuse that does not require 7 days of vomiting all over yourself and defecating all over yourself. But most people, honestly, as much as that information is out on the internet, to hear it from somebody where they say, hey, you know what? I know some people that have managed to get off this stuff and are truthfully living their best life, and they did it without hurting. The fear of what that's going to mean, of what you're going to have to endure when you quit, keeps most people in the game. It is, and it's sad because very oftentimes, the next thing you know, 10 years are gone, right? Or 11 years are gone, or 12 years are gone. It has a way of really getting out of control.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, sorry. I was just reading something.
No, go ahead. It's fine. Let me.
Hello, can't stay. We'll have to watch the replay. Big love. All right, Major. Take care of yourself.
Back at you, bud. We'll see you soon, bud.
Yep.
Guys, the internet itself is running spotty. Okay, so if you guys see any kind of like small choppiness or whatever, there's absolutely nothing Tommy can do about it, or me. It's just, and it's not bad right now. I just want to point that out because it does every once in a while. Your audio doesn't kick out, Tommy, but you'll look like you're Max Headroom for a second.
Right, doing the little freezing thing.
Yeah. So it's not bad. It's just I just want to make sure that they know that, so they know they're not the ones buffering. It's
right.
It's all good. So I just want to say that.
I appreciate it. So if you're approaching somebody that is, in the process of trying to quit anything else, you always want to just convey how much you care. And you have to make sure that people realize that we're not looking down our beak, right? No one is looking down their nose at anything. It's one of the nice things about the boat is anytime you hear anybody describe what we got here, they'll say, you know what, there's no judgment. There's absolutely no judgment because every single person here has had to get a monkey off their back of one kind or another, right? We have all been struggling with something. And whether it's food or whether it's booze or drugs or porn or anything else, we realize that, at its very core, it doesn't matter what you're trying to quit. It's the exact same science inside the brain, right? Your brain is telling you that is more important than anything else in the world and you have to do it. And giving someone an opportunity to realize that they're not a dirtbag, you understand? Because society has been telling them for so long that the reason that they're strung out is because they're weak, because they have poor character, that they're not good people, right? The reason you're addicted to drugs is because you're just not a good person. I got an email the other day that someone said they went and watched my first video, the one that I did on July 31st of last year. And they said 2 or 3 different times in the first couple of videos, I came out and said, I am not a good person. I'm trying to be, but I am not a good person. And I actually had to go back and listen to it because I didn't think, that is not something that I even remember saying, but it absolutely is something I said, and I said it a lot. And I think it's because until you get around some people that understand where you're coming from, and until you start really doing deep dives, I was in prison, and a lot of the stuff that I could read was very much about the chemistry of the mind and about why this causes addiction and the things that happen. But like the science that says, you know what, we really are different. Our brain is not the same as somebody who is not addicted to drugs. This isn't debatable. It's not arguable. It is a stone cold fact. You can look at it on a PET scan, and it will do it every single time. Right? There are no anomalies to this. This is a very easy thing to prove that, you know what, this is a disease. And you're not off the hook. We're not saying, get out of jail free card. You poor you, like cocaine knocked on your front door and then jumped up your nose and now look at you, right? We understand that it is a disease of choice. But once you start, you're screwed. And so often the people that look down their nose and judge addicts partied, right? They ate pills. They snorted coke, right? They smoked pot. Nothing got them. So the inability to realize that we are different, we're wired different, we never had a chance, is the reason that society tends to crap all over addicts. This is the kind of thing that you have to convey to somebody that you're trying to help get sober. You know what, brother? You're not a bad person. And inside of every single addict is a person just waiting to become the best that they can possibly be. There is no impediment to living a good life like addiction. Nothing. But if you don't convey that, if this isn't something that you can get across to somebody, then they're going to take your attempt at helping them to say, boy, Mark thinks I'm a dirtbag. I can't believe he even came at me like this, right? So I'm the addict. He's going to come and help me. If you say, look, you know what? I've been actually learning quite a bit about this. And once you're trapped in this, you know, it really does require help in order to get out. And, you know, you have a different brain chemistry than people who are not addicted. So you're fighting kind of an uphill battle. But once the brain starts, once you realize exactly the battle that you're in, it becomes a much easier process. And when you have people around who don't judge you, once you can get the guilt off of your back, the overwhelming feeling of I'm a dirtbag, I'm a bad person, right? I'm defective. There is something, you know, morally, I am just so off the track. How many times on this channel have you heard somebody say, I just can't forgive myself for the things that I've done? You ever heard people who aren't addicts say that? That doesn't come up in conversation with people who don't get high. For real. That's just one of those things that is unique to what we have. And that guilt drives people to continue to use, because nothing makes you forget guilt like drugs. When you're in the sweet spot, so to speak, you know, that moment 5 to 10 minutes after you took whatever your drug of choice is, until it starts to head back down in the other direction, right? Until you start coming back down. While you're in that sweet spot, there is no guilt, right? And no matter what you felt like 10 minutes earlier, you know, now you can justify just about anything in your life. But so when approaching people, what you really have to let them know is that there is nothing wrong with them and that you're not here to judge them in any way. And it really helps if you say, been there, you know? If you approach somebody and you've never had a drug problem, it probably isn't going to go well, truthfully, because no matter how much people try, it's a difficult thing to talk to somebody about something that you have no idea, right? Anything about, because book smarts is completely different. It's like a different language. You know, you learned how to conjugate a few verbs, right? You studied a little bit in the book. It is not going to be the same thing when someone starts spitting at you really quickly. We talk about this all the time. The first 40 minutes are spent trying to make somebody understand why we just can't say no. So if you're, you know, whenever somebody who is not an addict tries to approach, there's usually not a lot of success. But everybody here has the added benefit of, hey, Todd, congratulations. You know what? He said, Kratom has been a great tool to help me out. You know what? There are people that say that. You know, there's not much way to argue that. However, do a deep dive and do a little study, and I'm not going to.
Just be careful. Just be careful.
Just be careful, because as far as, you know, there's not much quality control. So very often that stuff gets played with, and there have been some pretty ugly statistics. But I'm not busting on you. If anybody that can get sober in any way, we're happy about. I mean, for real, that is the good thing. And yeah. So, but I probably wouldn't. I think the best case scenario, right, is if you could do it without anything. I couldn't, but if you could do it without anything, I think that's the best case scenario. But as long as at the end of the day you're not addicted to what you were, I think that we're all moving in the right direction, right?
Hey, Todd, good to see you, bud. So first time. Good to see you, Todd.
Todd's first time.
I think so.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is. I don't recognize the name. Welcome to the Lifeboat, Todd. I'm glad that you're here. Truthfully. My friend had to detox someone off of Kratom. You know, that's something that I've heard a lot of.
We can talk about this for a minute. It might help, you know?
Yeah. There's, and again, Todd, don't feel like I'm jumping at you or anything like that, because I'm not. Anything that people can do, especially with opiates. But this has been, I think my partner said this to me, and it's one of the things that, I don't know. I did a lot of deep dive and research. I haven't done this drug, which is really kind of rare, because almost everything on the planet I have abused. But you know what Mark said, and it really kind of got my attention. Rip, good to see you. Mark said, "This is tripping the same receptors in the brain."
Yep,
that scares the hell out of me. And boy, I mean that just you sort of encapsulated everything that I feel about that. It's tripping the same sensors in there, the same receptors in the brain. Oh, now that said, God bless you, right? I'm not busting on anybody, but anytime you're buying anything, whether it be that or whether it be any of the other herbal products that cause a psychotropic effect of any kind, right? To fly under the radar, the Food and Drug Administration doesn't look at any of these things. So I believe wholeheartedly that if what you're getting is there's some kind of quality control and you're getting the same thing every time, but when they start pulling this stuff off the shelf and they start testing from 6 or 7 different places, they're not getting the same substance. And that I find frightening. So just cover your...
It's actually illegal in my state. It's illegal in several states because of the very reason you're talking about. It's not. Right. It's not because of the drug, or it's not even really a drug. It's a root.
It's a root, correct?
And well, I guess it is a drug, but you know what I'm saying. It's not. Yes. It's not artificial. It's not chemical. But guys, I really have I'm timid about trying stuff that you can buy in a veggie tab at a gas station. Okay, no, I'm just. I know it sounds.
I'm sorry, that just sounded great.
But it's the truth, and I guess it's just where you're at, and I would echo what Tommy said. Anything that can get you where you need to be, I am going to support you 100%. Okay?
Absolutely.
And for me, I had a friend that sent me actually the powder, and they actually live out in Nevada. They sent me the powder in the mail, and first off, if you're gonna, that stuff there, it tastes so bad, guys. It's horrible. Don't make, it's a tea. When you get the powder, you got to try to make a tea with it. You drink it. There's veggie tabs. Like I said, you get veggie tabs and put it in there if you want. And I'm not trying to school you guys on how to make the stuff, but that's what you're going to find when you go cruise the internet on this. You're going to see how to do all that. And, yep. and the other thing is, it's much like THC now. You know how you got different strands of it? The same thing is the exact same thing with Kratom. There's so many different parts of it, and even in the Kratom community, the people that sell it, they argue with one another because I've got the best stuff, they've got the all this stuff, right? And it makes it very confusing for a person, and that's why the reason why I tried it was because I was in some serious pain, and I knew I couldn't go back to opiates, so I did. I tried it, and I trusted the person that sent it to me. Okay. That's why. It was not a drug dealer or nothing like that. It was an actual friend. As a matter of fact, they have a channel here, and I'm not going to say the name, but
okay.
I have never said it here, so it's somebody that you guys would know. But guys, that Kratom, it will. If you can get the thing of it is, it never made me high. If I'm and I'm not sure if I was. That was not my goal of taking it. I was trying to relieve pain. And at some point I was thinking to myself, if I wanted to get off my medicated assisted treatment, is this a second option that might help me? And I quickly figured out that no, that was not going to happen.
Not for you, right?
Not for me, right? That's exactly how you should put it. And that's how I would put it. So thank you for saying it that way. It was not for me. It may be right for, Todd or for T Prada, for Leslie, whoever else, I'm not, I don't think Tommy is either.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
But it does hit off the same receptor. And I think a lot of where the addiction and where the conversation comes into that you have to factor in that there may not be a big physical addiction, but if you're getting that euphoria off of anything, you become mentally addicted. You don't want to wake up and not feel that, even though your body might not be puking your guts out or having bad tremors or whatever we do when we're detoxing, but you become mentally addicted to that. You still want it, and you'll find yourself doing what you did when you were an opiate addict. You're going to be going, oh man, I got to get that stuff, man. I really want to feel that way today, and all this stuff. Right. The whole mental aspect comes in, and I think, but there are physical things. It just hasn't been studied enough, Tommy. That's just,
And like in my state, the only place you're going to find that is a head shop, and that kind of creeps me out. And there it's really popular here. The one thing that they did get rid of they were selling this concentrated version that was like a liquid that they would give in a shot, and not that you would inject. However, it did actually come in what looked like a very large syringe, but you would squirt this thing into your mouth, and that stuff they got rid of because the concentrate was apparently it was a little too strong and it was starting to cause some issues. But yeah, again, people, when people are seeking a way off of opiates, I think that's probably a really good thing.
Yeah.
If you come across someone who is taking this stuff, it's not because they think this is going to be a lot more fun than heroin, right? They think that maybe they found, a lifeline. And I remember before I did medical assisted treatment and I would be trying to quit and I would be eating, overdose amounts of over-the-counter sleeping pills and all kinds of just, drinking 2 or 3 bottles of NyQuil, stuff that I would not advise anybody on the planet to do. Horrendously bad stuff for you. And not trying to catch a buzz of any kind, but just trying to do something to take away the pain. Right. Which is one of the reasons that I really cannot hammer home enough medical assisted treatment.
Yeah.
I have seen some people. I had a very close friend that, believe it or not, had a larger heroin habit than I did, which is astounding, but it's the truth. He sold, and the amount of stuff that this guy was doing on a daily basis was terrifying. And he went in for medical assisted treatment, and he spent the first 6 days that he was in there unconscious.
Yeah.
They would wake him up so that they could take him to the bathroom, and then they would give him another, huge dose of benzos, to knock him out. And there's a doctor there, there's a nurse there, right? There's, medical professionals walking him through the entire process. And as he was coming out of that, right, and sort of entering the world, they put him on buprenorphine, which he only did for about 2 weeks. He was not looking to get, he thought he could take care of it in that period of time. And so far he's been doing really, really well. But
sorry. And no, it's okay. And I think that's a great thing to point out to people that, that's another treatment that Tommy's talking about there. There's so many ways to try to get clean or get sober. I don't like to use that word clean because, I don't think any of us are really. Even the people that aren't taking drugs anymore, there's something in their life that's got them at least a little bit dirty. But, when there's a treatment, and was it rapid detox he was doing, or was it just?
He did not do rapid opiate detox. I tried that once.
Right.
I cannot begin to tell you. What he did was he stayed knocked out for about 5 days. And then what they did is they put him on 16 milligrams of buprenorphine a day for 7 days. Okay. And they took him down to 8 so basically what they wanted was not him, wanting to jump out the window to go get dope.
Right.
While they started to talk to him, and they really hammered home the how important group was, and how peer-to-peer, people who have been addicted, what a huge thing that is. And so far, he's a guy that does 1 to 2 meetings a day. And hey, you know what? Anything that works to get you off this crap, especially with where we're at right now.
Exactly.
Riff said a great comment. He said, that's right. Just like video games, social media, shopping, thrill seeking, etc. Those are all mental addictions. Anything you can't stop doing that harms you or others is addictive and bad for you. The real key to this.
Wow.
First of all, it's a great comment.
Yeah.
Rip. And the amazing thing about that is that it is drugs, right? But the difference is that it's your drugs, right? Manufactured in your body. But they've done massive research, especially on things like social media or video games. They said that people that were over on things like Instagram, getting likes triggered the same response in the brain as cocaine.
Yeah.
Literally. So
it's all giving you a dopamine, right? That's really
correct.
what it's doing.
That's exactly what it's doing.
And anything that can get you there, that's what's going to make you feel that. And that's also another great segue to the point that people that are coming off opiates, it's a very, very common thing for you to crave sugar. People gain weight. As a matter of fact, the treatment center I was at first, they actually gave you a medication if you wanted it to kind of curb that sugar craving. That had nothing to
Right.
do with your addiction. They were actually trying to keep you from gaining weight.
Right.
And it's because sugar, what's it do? When you eat enough of it, or even just a little bit, you might not feel it a whole lot, but that's a dopamine release, guys. It's the same thing. It's just being triggered by a different receptor. That's all that.
Vicky. Sorry.
Go for it. No, go for it.
Vicky has said, I don't know how to stop smoking. Really, I have tried everything, even nicotine replacement and prescriptions. I don't want to do this anymore. By prescriptions, and I know we're going to be going back and forth unless you want to call in, but by prescriptions, do you mean buprein? What is that stuff called? It's basically, Zyban and things like that. Have you given those a try? If, again, just the chemistry of the brain, right? When they put people on Zyban, what they're doing is they're making certain chemicals spend more time in your brain, right? So it is a form of SSRI that they use solely for the purpose of people trying to get off of tobacco.
What's SSRI?
Using the word clean also means that the person is dirty or less than another person, and addicts aren't that. They're just good people who need a friend and help. You hear that, people? It's a really, really cool comment. I like chemical free.
What's
chemical free?
What's a SSRI? What's that? What's that brief?
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Okay.
It's
Well, I thought it was.
there are a lot of, and I have a feeling you know that, but you really just wanted to have me say that for everybody else. But that's cool. Vicky Brooks says, Wellbutrin, yes, I'm on it now and still smoking. Okay. I've heard that from other people. Zyban is great if you've never taken an SSRI. If you're already taking one, the level that they would have to take you to on that would not be productive, right, for the process. But
Wellbutrin is also used for depression.
Absolutely.
Yep. My wife was on that for a while.
SSRIs across the board are huge for that. And you know what? It's a $1 billion industry, and there are a lot of people that really badmouth it. I view SSRIs a lot like I view, anything that gets anybody
help
feeling better, right? Yeah,
Yep.
getting help.
Yep.
There are, I took Wellbutrin for a period of time when I got sober, and one of the reasons was I was missing the friend that I had for 30 years. Truthfully, heroin had been my best friend, and I almost went into this like postpartum thing when I finally got chemical free. There was just this depression that was overwhelming.
You're mourning a lost loved one is what you're doing.
True story. Yeah, true story. It was really that bad, and you suffer from anhedonia, right? Which is Vicky says made me feel like a zombie. I've heard that from a lot of people. It's hit or miss. There are some people that really have a problem with that. Rip Curl said sober is even okay because it is an accurate and non-negative description. I use the word sober a little different than other people, at least, when I'm talking about myself, because to me, sober was when I had actually got to a point where I was happy, right? Because, at chemical free until, and I don't know if I've explained this well enough here on the boat before. I'm sure that I have, but it's probably been a hot minute.
Go for it.
I didn't start doing medical assisted treatment the day that I quit, right? That wasn't an option. So I had been clean for almost 5 years before I started medical assisted treatment. And the reason was I was white knuckling it. And I mean, it's not like I wasn't doing everything that I recommend, but there was just a part of me that no matter how much I tried, just never quit screaming, for the drug. And, after talking to a lot of different people, they said, give this thing a try. What have you got to lose? And at that point, I feel like I got sober because I wasn't spending 6 to 8 hours a day thinking about what I had quit. Yeah. That's to me is chemical free because I'm not using, but I was doing this one, right? I'm not using, right? Just complete white knuckle. No matter what, I'm not going to do this, but I wasn't happy in any way, shape, or form. I was miserable. And for me, it's not the same for everybody. If you took 2,000 people, you would get 2,000 stories and 2,000 case studies because we're all different. But to me, I spent so much time of my life coating my MU receptors with 6 grams of heroin a day, right? At a minimum, 6 grams of heroin a day, that my receptors scream for it nonstop. And they communicate with parts of my brain that make me miserable. And buprenorphine was great because it just, what it did was coated those receptors.
Right.
So at any given moment, at any time during the day, my brain thinks I just did a pile of heroin. Not getting high, but those receptors are coated.
Exactly.
And when those receptors are coated, yeah, a lot of really great things happen in the brain when those are coated, because other parts of your brain then go, oh, okay, we're cool. And there's actually, if you look at a PET scan, there are parts of the addict's brain that don't fire, right? It's one of the things that you absolutely can see. There's way more activity in some places and way less in others. And when they paint the receptors, those tend to even out.
Yep.
Right. And you can actually do scans and look, and all of a sudden they don't look like the same person, and it, again, doesn't work for everybody. There are people that actually, absolutely hated it. But for me, it was, the magic bullet, so to speak. It's really exactly what I was looking for.
Well,
hello, Fee.
For me, I explain it to people like this because actually my doctor was, he was explaining to me the difference between, because at one point I was on Xanax for my anxiety, like I'm talking like 20 years ago, a long time ago.
Alprazolam.
Yep. Xanax, the benzos that we talk about.
Yep.
But there's also Ativan, which is Valium. Okay. And there's a difference between those two. The difference is that Ativan is long lasting. It's time release usually, and it lasts longer. Okay. That's just pretty much what it is. And he explained it to me like this, because we were trying to decide which one I should be on. Right. And he was trying to get to how I was feeling at the time. Does your anxiety hit you and then go away like 2 hours later, or is it there all the time?
Is it a constant?
Yeah. So he was trying to figure out how to help me the best. And I said, well, what's the difference in the two medicines? So he explained it to me that way, and he could see I was still kind of confused. He said, picture it like this. He said, picture getting up and just kind of feeling, kind of normal throughout the day. And, when your anxiety hits you or whatever, you take a Xanax, it's like taking a big, huge, deep breath, but then you got to do it again in 4 hours. That's what he said, if you're still feeling it.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he's like...
It really does, and it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and it was, yeah, and that helped me understand it big time, in that aspect. But I would relay that to some of the other stuff that we do too. It really is. You got to figure all that out on your own. And I do think that a lot of us, our bodies are chemically different, and we do react in different ways. There are blanket things that we do, all of us, but there are certain things our bodies will react to other than others. It's like the tolerance thing, right? Some people's tolerance is depending on weight and everything else, but I've seen people that weigh 50 pounds that could just completely drink me under the table. Yeah. And then Full of Hope made a comment there. She said she stopped cigarettes. This is a good thing here. About 7 weeks ago, she says she's realized that she needs something in her mouth all the time, so she's been chewing through pens and pencils and matchsticks like a crazy person.
Yeah.
To me, to me, that is exactly what we're saying about medicated assisted treatment and everything else here, because you figured out that that's not harming you, but you're able to not still put that cigarette in your mouth.
Right.
I mean, it really...
That's the ritual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The ritual of just... And I bet it's most difficult right after dinner, right? There are certain times, like right after you eat. One of the things that I think people sometimes take for granted is how much ritual there is in our drug use. The way that I did drugs, it's not like you just popped a pill in your mouth. I mean, there was this whole really disgusting process,
right,
that you really become addicted to. The whole process of getting your stuff out and putting it together, whole thing. But you absolutely become addicted to the ritual. Another great comment by Rip. He said, I like that about the word sober. It's like a goal to attain, which is great. I.e., I'm always an addict, but I have been sober for enter time here. I love it. I think truthfully, if I'm honest about it, like I've been chemical free for about 7 years and a couple of months. But I feel like I've been sober for about three or four at this point, because in the beginning, I'm telling you, I was miserable, and not for lack of effort. I had Q there really, really in my life when I first started when I first quit. And he was just there every day, leading me in every way you could. And I was doing everything this cat told me to do.
Right.
And he was one of the people that said, live as if.
Yeah.
Right. He wouldn't say fake it till you make it. He hated that. But he'd say, live as if. So get up and live as if you're happy. I know you're not, but get up and live as if you are. Because if not, the actions of your body are going to actually make you depressed. Right. You say, well, I'm not happy. I'm just going to lay in bed. Well, guess what that does? Right. You don't get out of bed. Then, it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And all of a sudden you're in really, really bad shape.
Exactly. And guys, and I know Tommy hadn't said this in a while, but he gets up every day and he makes his bed. And if he doesn't do that, he feels off, and I know that because he tells me, right? Yeah. I think he's told you guys the same thing probably multiple times. These are things we haven't said in a while, because we've been kind of trying to do newer things and just kind of keep it fresh. But there are times that we need to reverse and go back to these and let everybody know that this is where our base came from. And,
sure.
And it definitely is. Tommy gets up and makes his bed for me, and I know this is whatever, but I make try to make myself take a shower every day, because some people shower every other day or whatever. I get it, whatever. Yep. But when you're in a depressed state and you're fighting addictions and things like that,
the first things that goes
is your hygiene. You're done.
Yep, absolutely.
You will stink.
Absolutely.
And and people like with either heroin or any kind of opiate, fentanyl and stuff, they relate that back to losing your teeth. Well, it ain't really the medication doing that, guys. A lot of that's your lack of hygiene.
Absolutely.
But there are drugs out there that do affect your teeth. I'm not saying that, but my point is that everybody has their things that they do in their life, even prior to, that made them feel like they were being productive. And I think that's key. I think you have to, whether it's getting up and emptying a dishwasher or sweeping the floor, whatever it is for you, try to at least do one of those things a day. That way you can at night, then you can put your head back on the pillow knowing that you did something positive because you spent so much time doing negative, selfish stuff while you were addicted.
What you're describing is it's the rewiring of the ritual. It really is, right? I mean, I used to get up in the morning and I would go into the bathroom and I would fix. Right, I would go in there and I would shoot dope or I would smoke dope. But that was the first thing that happened every single morning. Get up, go do that. So the getting up and making the bed, became like almost a replacement ritual. And if you start to replace the things that you did that were awful with things that you do that you can do that are great, that are good for you, that basically point you in the right direction, it increases your chance of long-term sobriety, right? Yep. Using it the way we talked about earlier, where you're happy. You're not spending all day long thinking about dope. If you're miserable sober, right? That's not the best case scenario, people. I hate the concept.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living miserable as a person that's not using, what's the point, right? You really want to make sure that you're living your best life, and that means sobriety and in a healthy way, sobriety. Okay, so in the time that we have left, talking to people about this epidemic of opiates right now. Honestly, I think what we talked about last night is probably one of the most important things to be able to bring to somebody. When you start talking to somebody about drugs and about the dangers of fent and everything else that's out there, you got to realize that the addict honestly just thinks you're a person trying to get in the way of everything they're doing. If you can make them understand that this isn't the drug dealer that likes him, this isn't your friend, that treats you really nice and gives you a double up if you're a little short on money and all of these things. This stuff is coming from a country of people who hate us. I mean, plain and simple. And this stuff is getting pumped over here in frightening quantities with the intent to snuff out Americans, a lot of them. And if you start to explain to them why this stuff is dangerous, the fact that you can't evenly spread the stuff out. If you're doing a pill press, each pill is not going to have the same volume, because what happens very often is someone says, well, I just saw my friend eat 2 of these, right? He barely caught a buzz. Well, there may not have been anything in those pills. You understand? They mix this in a vat and then the stuff comes down and they just start pressing the pills. There's no control whatsoever to how much of the actual potent drug, right, the fentanyl, the rest of it is just bonding agents, starch, sugars, polyvinyl chloride. You would not believe the stuff that
Yep.
Yeah, baking powder, all of the stuff that's approved to put into a machine, right? That they then press down, like PVC, the stuff that's in pipes, right? Like black pipe that you would use in a bathroom. Well, that's actually approved to put into pills. Polyvinyl chloride is something that PVC is. You can absolutely use that in pills. Even big companies do, but you can buy all of that crap, and then as the pill press starts rolling, you just don't know how much is going to be put into each pill. So important you explain this, because you have to understand, in the addict's mind, they go, Mark just ate 3. I got 4 times the tolerance this guy's got, right?
Yeah.
I can do 12.
Yep.
There's just no way to predict what's going to happen from one person to another, or what's going to happen from one pill to another, right? There is no quality control for this stuff whatsoever. In the last 2 days, bunches of you emailed me to tell me all kinds of things about where you live and people that have been getting busted. And I think that's awesome. 115,000 tabs were busted in Minnesota. Wow. A frightening amount, right? That's a ton of pills.
Yep.
And, we're not talking about some of the biggest in the world here. This is in Minnesota. And in Connecticut, we're caught in Nerds boxes, right? In Connecticut. Boxes of Nerds that were filled with fentanyl, right? 15,000 doses. So a lot of that, people, it's not just that they want to get this stuff out and put it into the hands of 6-year-olds. 6-year-olds don't buy, right? It's not really what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is make it so that if a person's got it sitting in their car, no big deal. If you get pulled over as the guy slinging this stuff and they got 8 boxes of candy on the floor, most cops aren't going to say a word, right?
Right.
It was not designed, as a way to get into elementary schools, and that's really how they push it on the news, right? All of these things they're going to be handing this out for free to first graders. That's not really the danger. Now, if a first grader comes across a box of this, that's terrifying.
It is,
and that literally can happen because there's just too much of a chance of individuals leaving things around, right? That even the smallest amount of this stuff, people, if you're somebody that has never done any opiates, like any kids, right? Fentanyl is too strong an opiate, even for people that spent a lot of time getting high. I did alpha fentanyl. I used to do it every single time I could buy it, but it wasn't there every day. It was one of those things that you did every once in a while because it was different. And when you're doing that stuff every day for 30 years, if you could get well and feel different than you always felt, well, then that was kind of cool. And it definitely was stronger, It really was. I remember doing it in a lollipop that they had a fentanyl sucker. This was given out at hospice. And you would put this in your mouth. And my first wife almost stopped her heart, with that thing. I came in and she was sitting in my office twirling a lollipop, and I said, "Get that out of your mouth. Like, right now, that is not a lollipop."
Right.
But she was an addict.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, the danger of this stuff. Go ahead, Mark.
No, John. I'm not sure if I've seen John in here before either. Welcome, John, if you're new. Says I know someone that, and you got a similar story too, Tommy. Almost died by taking one pill. They almost pulled the plug on him. And it was similar to your story, I would think. Of course, that girl didn't know.
That girl didn't even know.
She didn't know.
She thought she was just taking a Percocet. But one pill can do it, people.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. One pill can do it. Yep. For a lot of reasons. Number one, they make this thing look like a perk, right? The difference between a perk 30 and fentanyl, right? Or a perk 40, whatever, and fentanyl is the difference between night and day. Right, this drug was designed for people with ridiculous opiate tolerance or end of life. Right, if you were going through something that, there's no chance you're beaten. Right, you're in hospice and you are in pain 24 hours a day. They made this stuff. It will absolutely take away the pain. It will also numb you and get you to a point where, the brain function isn't working as great as it's supposed to. But it was always intended to be given in an environment where there was a doctor standing there.
Yeah.
Right? Most of these people have an IV in. And if the heart rate starts to go down a little bit, they put a little atropine or whatever back into the vein, and they bring it up and they stabilize it. This stuff was not meant to be a street drug, right? By any stretch. And one pill, John's right. I mean, he's absolutely right. One pill of this will take you off the planet. There is no mistaking that.
And you know,
and a lot of people will say, hey, you know what? I did patches. Like I've done fentanyl. People, the difference between a patch, which is no lie alpha fentanyl, the difference between that and the crap that they're putting out on the street, once again, is night and day. Yeah, I mean, there's something called DSM. I believe it's called DSM. It's 3 initials. I'm pretty sure it's DSM.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What it is, it makes it so that things can pass through your skin, right? And basically get right into your bloodstream. And it is mixed into those patches in a time release system. So when you put that patch on, if it says 250 milligrams, right, or 400 milligrams or whatever, you're going to get that over 72 hours at an absolutely, right, a rate that's going to, be uniform for that entire time. Now, granted, people used to cut them up, chew on them, do whatever, but the way it was intended, alpha fentanyl is a different drug than this. This is like the difference between buying a bottle of vodka at a store or the guys that were making it in their bathtub, right back during Prohibition. Yeah, they're both alcohol. One was making you go blind, right, and all kinds of problems, right? Bathtub gin was awful. It's the same kind of thing. There is no quality control whatsoever.
And that's big.
Miss V said, even those patches made me sick. I am not surprised. They're ridiculously strong. That is not a medicine that, it's given out for really, really awful, high tolerance of pain.
And it's yeah, exactly. And I was sitting there listening to you the first part of that, and you know what it sounded like when you're talking about the doctor, the patient being there and giving them medication and stuff. You know what that sounded like?
No.
A safe injecting site.
Yeah, there's something to that, right?
You know what I mean? Honestly, It really does. It felt almost the same as when we talked about the safe injecting sites, because they're keeping them alive. That's all. They're just, it is what it is. And again, I'm not getting into that big, huge subject right now. It's just, I just wanted to make that comment so people can have another look at from a different angle, and it's just something that, I don't even know what else to say with that. That's just
James Patrick said, I used to chew up 80 milligram patches. And you hear this a lot. I mean, there were a lot of people that used to do that. And boy, 80 milligrams is a lot. Ripco Readiness says, patches scare me.
Yeah.
You know what? I understand why they would scare you. It is certainly a difficult thing to predict, right? Rip said, I love them too. They could give you a break from the, nope, I missed something there.
No, I think, putting them on your skin transdermal is different than cutting them up, putting them in your mouth. That's a total different ballgame, guys. So yeah. And it's just different. It's a time release thing when you put it on transdermal. You are bypassing that when you stick it between your cheek and gum.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I mean, just like cutting off the coating on an oxy pill. The addict is always going to find a way to take anything that was time released and make it not time released, right? I mean, as Cruz Red Eye said, 25, 50, 75, or 100 milligrams per hour. A horribly addictive drug. Absolutely a horribly addictive drug. However, right, it was the same drug every single time you chewed it. There was absolutely no difference between one patch and another patch. Quality control on those, what we're missing today is that, when people are pressing when people are pressing pills with this, there is nobody making sure that there is X amount, right, of the active ingredient in each of those pills. And I assure you, there is just no way to make that happen.
Yeah. And it's, let me say, James, there is no judgment here either for anybody. So don't worry about that. We know you're not proud of that. It was a long time ago. We get that, brother. You can come here and say anything you need to say. And it's really honestly, and it's that way here. So, but, and thank you for saying that, because I think I probably would have said the same thing too if I was talking about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I just want
you own it. Yeah. You own it because it's the right thing to do, but it certainly doesn't mean you're proud of it. And Tommy Bird said patches are actually in micrograms, not milligrams.
Yeah.
I guess probably a pretty good point. Yeah, that would be a fairly hefty dose if that's what they were giving.
And aside,
And
but
Terry 76 apparently put a patch on a bike tire. Worked out for him. That's good.
but yeah, on a side note there, guys, a lot of people don't know this, but I've talked about it, but it's been a long time. Again, another one of those things. They used to make a buprenorphine transdermal patch. It was called Bertrand's.
They did.
It's called Bertrand's. I was actually on that for pain. It's what they were giving it to people for. And it was a 3-day patch. And it's exactly what, it looked like a big Band-Aid, looked more like a nicotine patch than it did a fentanyl. Fentanyl patches are typically clear.
Right, they're clear.
Kind of rectangle shape, squares. Yeah.
Good size.
Yeah. And it's, and that that's another thing that I could point out here, that I worked with a guy, he's a veteran, and before the opiate crackdown, the VA was literally, because I didn't believe him, so he showed me his scripts.
Right.
He was putting two fentanyl patches on a day, okay, one on each butt cheek, and he had scripts for oxys and hydrocodone.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy the stuff this man was taking.
No, that's in the early days of that, you could go down and get, they would write you prescriptions for benzos at the same time.
Yeah.
Like if you took everything that they actually had written you a script for, it would absolutely kill you. Cruz Red Eye said, good conversation. Sorry for jumping in like that. No, you're not.
You're good, brother.
Right? Don't do that.
Yeah.
The idea is to jump in, right? The more everybody here, look, people learn from everybody on this boat. Right. The beautiful thing about what we have here is your experience, although it's probably very similar in a lot of ways to mine and very similar in a lot of ways to Mark's, is unique. And anytime somebody says something, there are so many people on the boat that hear this, not just tonight, but later on down the road, who are going to benefit. You do not have to apologize for that in any way, shape, or form.
100%.
Please do that.
100. Right? Yeah, I would echo that 1,000 times.
Yeah,
it really is. It's what we're here for. And remember, anybody that's new here, this is a call-in show. If you want to call, you can. The Zoom link's at the top of the chat. If you want to click a Zoom link, actually I stopped the scroll because it was kind of distracting to some people, so I just got it as a straight bar on the bottom now. That way people can see it's always there. That way people, if they need it, they can see it. But yeah,
and James, as far as owning your past, and not something you're proud of. I went to prison for robbing banks and being a gun runner. I'm not sure whether or not you've, caught any of the earlier episodes on the Lifeboat, but I'm a convicted bank robber. Uh-oh.
Seventh
son?
Yep.
You have competition here,
Seventh son. He's going to give you some competition here. This is my nephew Gabe. You know what? Hold on 1 second, Tommy. Let me do this real quick. Let me. This is going to look.
I'm the noise opera. You are so lucky you are still here, my brother.
Come here, buddy. This is my nephew Gabe. He is one of the reasons that I am still doing what I'm supposed to. So just so you know. So I'm gonna put this on your head, Gabe, and you can tell your joke. All right.
All right, people.
What do you call? Hold on. What do you call a frog that parks his car in the wrong place?
I don't know.
Toad.
You got one more for him?
Very well done.
Not? No?
Let me try and remember.
You want to try to remember one? You don't have to, but it's good.
Seventh, you really do have competition. That one was great.
That was a good one, wasn't it? They loved it, dude. They loved it, man.
Yeah, very cool. And Fiona says, I am not really addicted to salt. However, I know for a fact that she has to use that awful Vegemite stuff and spread it on bread so that she doesn't get headaches. So I don't know that I believe her.
He's got one more, Tommy. Let me.
He's a hit.
Okay, here we go. Go for it.
What car does a cat own?
What car does a cat own? I don't know that either.
A Ferrari.
A Ferrari.
That's cool because we got a cat in a basket on this show.
We do have a cat in the basket.
We got a cat in a basket on this show. You want to see it? We're getting ready to do it here in a minute, so hang out right here. There we go. We'll go back to that. So yeah, we are at the top, but whenever you want to end, Tommy, we can.
Hey. Rub-a-dub-dub. 3 men in a tub. How unsanitary, right? Absolutely unsanitary.
Awesome stuff. Hey, Steve, you got some competition now, man.
Yeah,
He's got you,
no
brother.
question. Leisure says, yeah, between perk 15s and perk 30s. Yeah, V was liking them too much. I got mad at me. I had to split from the fish guy at first. You say me, detox. How bad was I? Uh-oh. Okay. Yes. Flashback Monday. Squirrel would definitely own a Ferrari. Yes.
Exactly.
See that? Absolutely truth. Rip Curl Readiness says, I love good parents. You know what? We all do. So please talk to your kids, talk to your nephews, nieces, and let them know that, there is no way to predict what's in each pill, and they're being made by people that really don't care whether you live or die. In fact, their absolute goal might be to kill as many of us as possible. That's the truth. And when people understand where this stuff is coming from, because you have to understand that in the life, they just think that, that person probably did too much. Truthfully, very often when people are strung out, they're not spending a lot of time looking at the news. They're not spending a lot of time reading stuff. I mean, it's really you fall out of the real world in a big way.
Yep.
Christine says, this is a comforting place to be. I have lived with alcoholism in my family and seen its destruction. I have been affected in other ways by it. It helps to hear your stories. It helps us all. Christine, we are so glad you are here. It's a really great comment.
Yep.
It's a beautiful comment.
Exactly.
I'd like to think that it really is a comforting place. It makes me very happy to hear that. And we ran a tad long.
Well,
so
we kind of didn't because I didn't start the live up, so that's got the thing.
That's true. I think we did start just a little bit
Hang out.
late. I'm gonna end with one story real quick.
Go for it.
The other day I was on a site, and it was a live feed, and there were some people arguing about whether or not a squirrel was a rodent, exactly what family it fell into, and a name I had never seen before in my entire life wrote, "A squirrel is a cat in a basket." And I thought, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
No way.
Yeah. I immediately ran and told my nephew / business partner, I'm like, no way.
Wow.
Squirrel is way worse than we are. But
that's awesome. Whoa. That's
Leslie,
so cool.
I like the idea of you moving out of the wilderness and down. I don't know. I just think that's a good thing, brother. I really do. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to see how it works out. But I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad your phone is fixed.
Yep.
People, we will be back tomorrow night. Thank you so much for being here every night and making this channel is about what it is. Yes. Because it really is. It really is you guys.
I want to say thank you to you too, Tommy. You don't give yourself enough credit, man.
Well, thank you.
I mean, cool thing to say. I really do appreciate. I love you too, man. I appreciate you more than I could ever say. It's just, yeah. I mean, when I call you a brother, I mean it, and I think you.
No question.
Same thing. So.
No question. I have no problem waking Mark up in the middle of the night if I need him, which is really a, no coincidence, right? No coincidence, Tommy. Yeah. So I am really happy that you all are here, and we're going to be here. We're going to be back tomorrow night, same bat time, right here. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody because you can do it. Yep. Alrighty, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages,
and the proud owner of a Ferrari. That is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. It truly is alive. Look. All right, maybe she's not. All right, I love you, squirrel.